Yeah, I got involved with crypto in 2012 for the first time. End of 2012. This opens a whole lot new possibilities, a new world. I know a lot of people who got involved with crypto and a lot of people who also made some money with it, but none of them were female. So I figured that we need more female voices because I was on my journey. But if you do not have the mindset, or if you are not aware of your own psychological maybe limitations, then you can still make a lot of mistakes and you can still lose money. I think it's super important that you're aware of your own goals. What do I actually want to reach here? I think it's important that you have a long-term plan, that you know that you never invest what you cannot afford to lose. I think it's always a good feeling if you know that you've taken out your investment. First of all, I think it doesn't really matter what your background is. All of us can learn about crypto.
In today's episode, we dive deep with Elisa, founder and CEO of FemmeCapital. Elisa entered the crypto space in 2012, and by 2020, she turned her passion into her job by launching a platform, FemmeCapital, to teach women about cryptocurrency. In this conversation, you will see Elisa's crypto journey firsthand. She gives practical advice on starting with crypto investments. She shares insight on the changing landscape, and she also shares her view on female empowerment in this sector. Elisa's experience offers invaluable lessons, and I was really happy that she joined the show. This was such an inspiring conversation for me personally. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation now. Hi, Elisa. I'm so happy that you are here today at Just the Metrics. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so interview in English, but you are actually from Germany and you are quite a while in the crypto scene, in the crypto space. So what would you say? Where did your crypto journey start? When did it start? And how did you even get to know about crypto back then? So maybe you can guide us a little bit into your journey into the crypto space where you are right now really active, especially in Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, I got involved with crypto in 2012 for the first time. End of 2012. And I was introduced to the space through my roommate back then in Berlin. And we started discussing these topics, and he told me it's really amazing what you can do. This opens a whole lot like new possibilities, a new world. And I was super critical, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. And this sounds shady. And where's the value? And then I stumbled upon the project from the World Food Program, where they introduced blockchain in different refugee camps. And so that the people there could start to pay. Back then it was in Ether, when the transaction fees were also much lower than nowadays.
Yeah.
And this really changed my mind. So I was like, wow, if this works, if this gives possibilities to people who are normally not really included in our financial system, even though that was a very specific microcosm of refugee camps. But yeah, that's when I really started to get involved and interested. And then I went to crypto conferences and meetups and stuff. But that was all more of a hobby and something on the side that nerds like us do. Then I started to think about whether I could do this full time, and that I know a lot of people who got involved with crypto and a lot of people who also made some money with it, but none of them were female. So that's when I was like, this should really change. And the whole speech, the whole approach was very male because it's still a very male dominated industry. And so I figured that we need more female voices because I was on my journey. I was always surrounded by men, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes I felt like I didn't really belong there when I was the only woman in the room. And so I felt like it would be nice if women who come after me would not feel the same and if they feel more welcome and included. And so that's how I started FemmeCapital.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Also for me, I also heard for men and then I started learning and then you look for communities, companionships for someone to exchange with. And this is probably also the reason or the moment when you started FemmeCapital.
Exactly.
So when was it? When was the first cohort? So you decided to switch immediately and build up this learning platform, or how did it evolve?
Yeah, it started that I tried to get my girlfriends involved. And they were all like, no, this is nothing for me. I don't really know anything about finance. I'm not an IT person. And that started to really get to me. Then I started on the side in the beginning and I developed like the structure of our workshops. And I started to, okay, so I tried to explain blockchain this way, which did not work. So I need to find another way. So like all of my friends were like super annoyed about me because I was like, did I tell you about blockchain? And yeah, that's how I developed the whole structure that we now use in our workshops, because it's really tricky if you never thought about decentralization. You don't really know why that should matter. If you never thought about why centralized systems may be, yeah, even a threat to our society and to our freedom and to including everybody in different systems, then it's really a long stretch to get to why blockchain actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's how I developed our structures. And then really rapidly, I started FemmeCapital as a full-time job because, the interest just kept growing. And in the beginning, we were like 2 or 3 women sitting in our kitchen and none of it paid because I was just like, may I explain blockchain to you, please? Then, a year later, we had workshops with over 100 women and I gave workshops like 8 times a week,
Wow.
some days even twice, in German, in English, in Portuguese. So we
Oh,
really
wow.
tried to cover all different cultures and as much as we could. And so then we really started growing and we started to hire more people and to really reach out to get more people involved.
Yeah. It's really amazing how many years you're doing that now. What was it, like more than 5 years, right?
Yeah, that's 5 years now.
5 years, yeah. That's really cool. Because think back of blockchain, crypto 5 years back, and then you already had such a big audience, so many participants and people who are interested in joining your cohorts and classes. It's a huge impact, especially when you think 5 years back.
It's funny
Yeah.
sometimes when you use crypto stuff, like when you use your ledger or when you use these decentralized exchanges, and you're like, wow, the user experience is really shitty still. I think back, wow, and it's already much better than 5 years ago or 8 years ago. I wonder how we even got started in the very beginning because it was so difficult and it was so, not really joyful to start
Yeah.
doing these
You
things.
have you had to had really conviction and interest in doing it when
Yeah.
you were like so early.
That's-
Yeah, that's really interesting. And like, how's your cohort system running now? Is it like an online based learning and you have like live coachings every month, I think, to different topics? And what is, for example, your numbers last year, this year? How many participants and how can people find out about your courses?
Yeah. Yeah. I must say, we really felt the bear market. That's
Mm.
like the whole industry felt it. And I would be lying if I said it like didn't affect us as a team, as a company. So when in the bull market, people were like, crazy about buying Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever. And then in the times between when it would have been really smart and really good to enter the game and to get involved and to buy for really interesting prices, people were not really that interested. Now that the prices are that high again, people are coming back and I'm like, oh no, I really
Great.
enter. Yeah. And I already know that if you buy high, it takes a long time for you to see higher prices. So the probability that the prices will actually go lower and the courses will go down is really high. And so I already know that they're up for some frustration and for some disappointment.
Yep.
Of course, depending on when they enter and how the next bull market will develop.
Yep.
But for the sake of our customers, I wish they would have entered in the phase when nobody was really interested in crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always the problem, right? Okay, now it starts getting traction in the media, especially Bitcoin and all these topics, then it's coming up. Actually, my journey started at the end of the bull run, so I bought really high. I also wrote about that, so it was pretty for me. But somehow I was sticking through and I kept going. And of course, I was a bit cautious. And the thing is, if you have never experienced a cycle, then you have to have the trust and the knowledge and the belief. You also have to believe in this system, and Bitcoin, Ethereum as blue chips in this area. So you have to have the foundational belief this will go up again. So I could somehow have been there. I think I bought it. It was end of October 21. So really bad timing. But you don't know that with this is the first cycle. You don't really, I never had an overview, an idea about how cycles look like, how they move from Bitcoin to Ethereum dominance to altcoins. So this is what you learn over experiences and over living through different cycles. That's just interesting how that works. But still now it's catching up again. Maybe from your experience, so you have been really long now into crypto, 2012. So what would you say, do you see any difference, especially when you look into now, okay, we have Bitcoin ETF for 10 years. Everyone was looking out for that. Now it's approved. It's there. Institutional investors coming in. Do you anticipate any changes? Because sometimes there are rumors this is the last cycle we will see in this phase, like common to the last ones. It will be less volatile. It will be more regulated. What is your take on that? Do you think it will change in the future?
Yeah, I think the market will probably become a little bit more stable. It won't be as crazy as it was even back then when we had the whole ICO hype and everything. And that's a good thing, I think. In terms of, I think regulations are super important so that we all know what we're up to and what we owe the SEC or the Finanzamt, that we are really clear about the rules. And I think that's also a big part. So we can really establish working systems, because there are a lot of people who are afraid, or you don't really know if you're actually building a system. You don't really know what you can rely on or count on in terms of regulations. So that's an important part. I think that it will become a little bit less hectic, less turbulent, but still, we're still in the very beginning. Like there has been this article that I read once about whether we are late to the party, but this article was already like 4 or 5 years ago, and the authors say we're not late to the party, even though when the prices are high as they are now. But we're still like the day before the party. We're at the point where you go to the party with your sleeping bag. You get dinner there. The next morning you get breakfast. And then at night, the party is going to start. So I'm not really sure if we're still in the phase where you get to the party with your sleeping bag, but we're definitely still before lunch or something. So far away from too late to the party.
Yeah.
Especially if we look at the numbers, the whole crypto market, like is still, even though it's growing all the time and we do see new all-time highs now, but I think there's still a lot to come. But I'm really cautious with cycles. I don't really believe in Bitcoin halving. If the halving turns out this way, then this is going to happen. And if we see this dynamic, then this is going to happen. I think there are so many factors that we cannot really count in. I do see that the space changed, because in the beginning you had all those like strong believers and people that were really enthusiastic about the idea of crypto. They were really in it for blockchain, for the idea. And now you see more people that are in it for the money, for the fame, for whatever, but not really for the idea of including everybody into the financial system or opening new possibilities to people who did not act for.
Yeah, I agree. I also observed that. I'm active on Twitter, and there you have, especially now, all the people pushing coins, and of course, meme coin season is ongoing. But that's why when we started also being active on Farcaster, there's like a different vibe. There's more like this builder vibe, and who's building what will help to improve something. And yeah, but this is a Web3 social native platform, so to say, and which looks like Web 2. So it's like Web 3 in disguise. And yeah, I feel the same, especially on this crypto Twitter areas where you have a little bit different sentiment and vibes now. But yeah, I think since this is my first like really upswing I'm experiencing, maybe it's normal that the rumors, the noise is all getting really loud.
Yeah. And I think it's also when a startup turns into a bigger company and you don't have 5 people or 10 people working on something, but 50, gets a little bit less romantic. People
Mhm.
are, it's less personal. 5 years ago, it still felt like you knew everybody. And now there are all those different ecosystems. There's Bitcoin. In general, it's still a little bit like religion. There's Bitcoiners, there's Ethereum enthusiasts, there's Cardano, there's Solana. There are like huge communities.
Yeah.
So you can't even be up to date in all of
Mhm.
those different areas. There were times when you could almost read every article that was published online because it was such a small bubble. But
Mhm.
it's a good thing that we're past that stage.
Yeah. How do you approach it? I was also thinking, so how do you approach that in your learning strategies? Because you are right, it's like every ecosystem is like a little silo in itself. Wallets work differently, applications have different requirements, technical things. How do you solve this kind of complexity issue in your teaching, in your courses?
That's a very good question. And that's a really big challenge. So we actually decided that we do publish news and things like that, but we don't really get into how you buy on different blockchains. We teach how you make your first Kraken or Binance or Coinbase or whatever account and how you put money there and how you can actually start purchasing crypto. Then we teach how you can secure it if you put it on a ledger or any other hardware wallet. And then we teach you how you can actually send it from one address to the other. But that's pretty much it, because everything further than that, I think you really need to understand the structure behind it.
Mhm.
Also, the user interface changes all the time and is crappy in a lot of cases. So you try to do one thing and it doesn't work out, and you do it 5 times, it doesn't work out, you do it 10 times, and the 11th time it's working. But some people don't even get to the 11th time because they give up. So you need this persistence and you really have to go down the rabbit hole, I think, to actually work with crypto, because otherwise you will lose a lot of money and you have a lot of risks. And we are not willing to encourage our customers, our members, to take on those risks. We
Mhm.
think it's great if you get involved with crypto, if you start, but you should also be very cautious because there's a lot that's not really working yet, or you should stick to the more established apps. So you're not trying out something completely new. You're not putting your money into any pools that are actually scammy or not really working or will crash for one reason or the other. So yeah, we stick really to the basics. And then we think if you want to go any further in this area now, you need to take over the responsibility for yourself because we
Yeah.
cannot provide that. It's impossible. As you said, the space is so big. There are also so many assets, coins, tokens that people sometimes we're approached like, what do you think about XYZ? I'm like, I've never heard of that. Like, there are millions of tokens. And it's impossible to know all of them or to
Yeah.
have an opinion about them. Much
Yeah,
more.
yeah. And also 70% of them will never exist after the end of the next cycle. So you never know. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Yeah.
not more. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really this fundamental groundwork, it's necessary. It's just educating about the possibilities and about the kind of first entry steps. And this is already it. Because right now there is no self-custody. Everyone just goes to their like bank around the corner. I have my credit card, I have my debit card, whatsoever. That's it. And this seems like really far away from the world now. Okay, you have to take care of your money, you have to manage your funds, you have to secure your wallets. This is nothing people ever thought of. And so that's this kind of basic entry level information is already so valuable and opens an entire new world and mindset how financial systems actually work right now, not could work in the future, but it's already there. So yeah,
Okay.
that's really important, I think. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting if you look at, we had the direct comparison, what our customers say in Germany or our members, when we tell them with crypto, you are in charge of your money. Like there's nobody you can call. If you mess up your password or something, then there's nobody you can call. So for our members here, it was like, oh, I'm not sure I like that because I think I really trust Mr. Müller from Sparkasse and the next whatever Buxtehude little town, and people in Brazil are quite the opposite. When I
Mm.
told them you are in charge of your money. You need to secure it. They were like, that's amazing. Of course I will do that. And it really shows where people still trust in the system for maybe not really reasonable reason, and where people have been so screwed that they started to understand that they might prefer to be in charge of their own financial possibilities.
Yeah, the background, the situation where you came from is really an important factor how you approach new topics or embrace them even. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think that's also something that we learned over the past years. It doesn't really matter whether you heard of Cardano when it was still like whatever the entry price of Cardano was. But if you do not have the mindset, or if you are not aware of your own psychological maybe limitations, then you can still make a lot of mistakes and you can still lose money. We've seen that with a lot of different examples where people made like amazing investments in points of time where you're like, oh, I wish I could have buy this and that for this and that price. And they still lost money.
Yeah.
They took it out. And I think it's so important that you are aware of whether you have a tendency to get a little bit greedy, whether you're a gambler, whether you are super conservative. And a lot of even my friends who started rather soon, they saw a lot of assets going really high. They just looked at them and they didn't realize any profits. Then they looked at them going really low. But I think, as you said before, I think you need to experience some of these cycles to actually know when your bets are turning out to be good bets. You should actually realize some of the profit, and you should make a plan how to reinvest them afterwards. Or you just take it out and buy yourself a new bike or car or whatever it is. But I think that plays a big role. And I think that doesn't really get the deserved attention in this way, because
Yeah.
it's not only about knowing the next big hit, it's about knowing about yourself.
It's not about only also entering when to enter, but also when to leave. And the
Exactly.
problem is, when you see it's rising, maybe your imagination is not there. Oh, it will not always go up. The music will not always play. At one point, the music will stop. Maybe making it a bit more tangible for people who listen. Maybe you can guide us through your journey from 2012. You started investing. You said, okay, you need to have a strategy. Having a strategy is really important, that you have a point in time where you say, okay, now I'm taking out a certain percentage and now another like 10%, 20% whatsoever, so that you have a plan. You don't need to be like really precise, but just in general, how is your personal strategy? How is your investment plan? And how much of your portfolio you say you have still in volatile assets, or you shift in less volatile assets? How do you teach in your classes this kind of strategic thinking and how to approach these questions?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a huge and difficult question, because I think there's not one strategy or two or three that like cover all of us and all of our situations and needs and psychological situations. I think it's super important that you're aware of your own goals. What do I actually want to reach here? Is it for like retirement in 20 years, or do I want to redo the kitchen, or do I want to buy an apartment? And of course, everybody would say, I would love to become a multimillionaire. But maybe that's a little bit too broad and too big. So I think it's important to really know what your goals are. And then, like for me personally, it was to buy an apartment. I wanted to buy an apartment for my mother, to know that she will always be safe. She will always have her place. We can make it super nice for her, and she doesn't need to worry about a thing. So when the prices went really high, I started to take some profits. And to be honest, I couldn't really tell you the percentage right now.
No, that's fine.
But it was under 10%, but I waited also a long time. So I took out some profits and then I kept them and I've put them in stable coins. And so I waited and looked at the market, how it develops. And it was only the second or third bull run that I actually took out the money that I actually needed to buy this apartment. But of course, that was super early, and the changes and the profits that one could make back in the days with also a little investment, not like I never invested like 20,000 euros or something. They were huge. So I think that also, we also have to take that into account. Where can we get to at this point of time when
Mhm.
Bitcoin is already, I don't even know where Bitcoin is today, but
Around 70,
yes,
70,000 USD, something like that.
yeah, that's really high. And that's very far away from when I heard first about Bitcoin and even Ethereum. But yeah, I think it's important that you have a long-term plan, that you know that you never invest what you cannot afford to lose. That's super important. I saw people really gambling, taking on loans to put into crypto and
Mhm.
then having to pay them back when the prices are really bad. So that's like the worst case scenario. I think it's good. For example, now I would start to take out, if you have invested at a point where you would say, now it's the right time for me to start taking profits. And also that's a very personal thing, because if you have to, I don't know, feed a family of 5, then you probably have a different strategy than if you only have to feed yourself.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I'm not a friend of giving out like recommendations that fit all. And I know it's always difficult, like in any interviews for newspapers or magazines, it's always, what are your 3 crypto tips? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, if it was that easy, everybody.
Yeah, that never works. That's really hard. And as you say, like it starts first with your risk appetite and with the idea it's also a little bit like a casino. It's not, okay, I put my money into ETFs and we have data and records of the last 100 years, how ETFs perform over 10 years, 15, 20 years when you hold them. So you have an idea how markets perform and then you can act accordingly. And then you can plan your life. You can say, okay, now I'm in this position. Maybe later I want to buy a house, whatever. So I'm not having so much in my portfolio. So we have a lot of data. So this is the biggest problem. And cycles change, and even the situation within the cycle, especially like this year, it's changing. It's really, okay, what is my own mindset? What is my risk appetite? What am I willing to lose? And how much can I like really handle without having sleepless nights and crawling through Twitter and having this FOMO? Oh, there's every day is a new coin promoted somewhere. Don't FOMO into anything. Maybe also having a certain conviction of the tech behind. This is where we came from. Follow the metrics, not the hype. So this is basically initially where we came from, looking at the tech and the metrics and try to understand that and then see where you have a long-term conviction. And then also look at the team, look at the money flows, where you need money to develop things and it takes years to develop things. So having also in certain things a longer term perspective, because everything in crypto is quick and really going, okay, today I'm putting this in, tomorrow I expect 100,000. This is sometimes what people communicate on Twitter. But like you said, it was like for you 3 cycles to realize profits to fulfill your goals. So there's no one strategy fits all. It's really individual, and everyone, I think, has to sit for themselves and work on a plan, really write it down. This is what for me is okay, write it down. I'm not getting confused by anything which is going on outside. So I have my strategy and my plan, and then I'm like sticking to it whatsoever will happen. Yeah, but let's see. It's everyone is different, and yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing that people tend to forget, that it's not about buying XYZ, even if you don't really know what they are doing. It's super important that you can make qualified guesses or predictions or however
Yeah.
you want to call it. And therefore you need to understand the technology to a certain part. You
Mhm.
don't need to know how exactly the blockchain is built, but you need to find your own way in developing your own like rating system. Like,
Mhm.
you have people that you really trust that think publish good content. Then if they start talking about something, look this project up and look what's behind it and why people really talk about it and what they're actually trying to do. And to understand or to analyze whether this makes sense, you do need this general understanding. And that's the thing. I've met a lot of people who have invested in crypto and they don't know shit. If you tell them like, yeah, but I don't know, what do you think about Bitcoin in terms of scalability? I think the scalability and the Bitcoin ecosystem is still a problem. They're like, I don't know. I'm like, but you've put your money in that. So I think that's important. And as
Yeah.
you said, you need to know when you can still sleep and when you are staying awake because you are so nervous. So it's, as always, it's the healthy middle. And also, like, some people start, like, a friend of mine just said, if my investment doubles, I want to go out. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And some other people say, I want at least that, like, I get 5 times the return from what I put in. That's also fine. If you can still sleep with that it goes like this and it's a real roller coaster. What I think is a good strategy or a good take is if you take out your investment. If you invested like 1,000 euros, and it doesn't really matter at which point you take it out. Of course, if you take it out when it doubled, you only have 1,000 left to invest, but maybe that helps you to start sleeping better again. So then it's totally worth it. And I think it's always a good feeling if you know that you've taken out your investment. So anything that you have right now is more than you ever had. I cannot lose any money because all the money that I have in crypto right now is money I didn't have before.
I like this
idea.
thought mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go a little bit back to the early times of you starting FemmeCapital at your kitchen table. And also knowing that you have, I think your background, have studied ethnology.
Yeah.
There are also the stereotypical perceptions, maybe because you said, oh, you embraced crypto, you saw all the opportunities, you saw the change in the financial system. But maybe lots of people are having a different backgrounds, not a tech background, especially not a blockchain background, who have more, okay, this is dangerous, this is risky, this is complex. How do you approach this?
I think, first of all, I think it doesn't really matter what your background is. All of us can learn about crypto, and you don't have to understand which concepts exist, but the general idea of decentralization, of, the Pipestone example of those islands where people paid with like huge stones and the knowledge of which person owns which stone was decentralized in all of their heads. Like, these ideas, they help people to really understand what decentralization means and how this is empowering. And I think, to be honest, if people tell me I don't trust in crypto, I don't want to buy crypto, perfectly fine. You don't have to. If they tell me that crypto is scammy or everything about blockchain technology is not working and it's unnecessary, but this is the current system, the financial system. You really think that this is working? Like, from everything we've seen over the past 20 years, like, this is the thing that you want to bet on for your kids, like for the next generation, that this is actually a good system. And I think if you talk to people in Greece already, it's not that far from us, who have been standing in front of the cash machines and they did not get any money out of there, but they had the money. They just access it. And it was not their fault. It's the system's fault. So these people are much more open to new ideas and innovations in that field than us, because we haven't had any troubles like that. But go to Argentina, talk to people there. I believe that there's a big need for crypto.
Yeah, me too. I think that's why, we are all here. So many people are working in the space already to build up projects. Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine you meet like a total crypto newbie, like totally interested in learning. What would you say are the first 3 steps? You say, okay, you can start like this and this to start investing in crypto, to participate, or maybe even not to invest, just to get their first piece of information. Where would you guide these people if you would be like a mentor for a crypto newbie entering the space?
Yeah. The famous first steps.
Yes, the famous first 3 steps.
Honestly, that's why I founded FemmeCapital. I would always say, look for somebody who you find, like, I don't know, where you see a connection, because I think that's also important, that we can identify ourselves with somebody else. There are tons of videos on YouTube, but a lot of them are not for me, because I just don't like the way people talk about crypto, the way they tell me, oh, this coin is going to pump, so you need to invest here and there. Like, that's not my cup of tea, and that's okay. So I would tell people, go and look for somebody who you can somehow relate to, and where you think that you have a source that you can trust it. And it's important that you look a little bit behind the curtain, so you know how this source, for example, is financed. Because if we do a podcast about Bitcoin and our sponsor is Kraken, then we might have some interests that make us not completely objective or neutral.
Mhm.
So I think that's also important to really look for, why do people recommend this or that?
Yeah.
So then I think it's baby steps. It's really start with one thing. Don't start with, I want to understand everything. I want to understand the top 10 coins. I want to know what's the difference. I want to know right now what DeFi is and stable coins and whatsoever. Start small, start with Bitcoin. Start to understand why Bitcoin was founded, how this whole mystery about nobody knows who's the CEO of Bitcoin. There are really entertaining videos about that on YouTube. So that also the entertainment factor makes it a little bit easier to enter the space. So yeah, find something like that and start little. Don't sign up for 20 different newsletters already, because you won't be able to keep track, and it will just be frustrating because you don't understand what they are talking about.
Mhm.
It's really, I think it's small steps. Start with Bitcoin, make an account on Kraken, or I personally like Kraken the most, to be honest. And I'm free to say that because I'm not sponsored by Kraken.
Yeah, I was like, no sponsorship here.
We had exchanges approaching us and asking us if we would like to collaborate with them.
Oh, really? Oh,
Um,
wow.
but we did not,
Yeah,
because that would, like, we would
to
bring
keep it neutral. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to always be able to tell our members and customers what I think is the best thing, or what
Mhm.
I think where you need to be careful, or where the user experience might have changed. Or in the beginning, like 4 or 5 years ago, I did use Binance quite a bit, but then it started to get more difficult and the regulations for Binance changed and it was difficult to access. And so we changed it. We said before we did use Binance, but there have been some changes, and now it's not really that easy for us in Germany to use Binance.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really cool, this transparency. And especially looking behind the curtains, this is probably true for a lot of things in crypto. So first of course, your source of information. How are they making their money? And especially this is also true when you look into projects. So how are they funded? What is the team? How is the setup and everything, the tokenomics? So looking a little bit behind the curtains doesn't hurt in any case in crypto, I think. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think one also important thing to remember is that if you invest in smaller coins or tokens that are less known and, yeah, literally smaller, the risk is always higher. Maybe the upside, the possibilities are also higher. But
Mhm.
if you are just getting started, don't go for the really small things that your friend from high school just sent you a link that you haven't spoken to in 10 years and you don't know what this person is really up to. But there might be some, like, snowball systems behind it, or they get actually tokens or credits or whatever if you invest. Yeah, be careful with the smaller assets. Really, I think in the beginning, you should really go for the big ones. And of course, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. If you have a bigger sum of money that you want to invest, don't put everything to Bitcoin. If you
Mm.
do have some money to invest, maybe you want to go Bitcoin and Ethereum, but don't go too broad. Like, I know a lot of people, like, you can have big bags from small projects where tokens are whatever, 1 cent or something. So you can quickly become a millionaire of those tokens, which is a little bit tempting, I think, for some
Mm.
people. But that doesn't really lead you anywhere if you cannot keep track, if you do not really analyze the system, if you are not really aware of the risks. It's easy to spend money on crypto, but yeah, try to find a good way in the middle and start small. We have a lot of clients now who tell me, I was so enthusiastic and I've bought 10 or 12 assets. I'm like, and how much time are you actually investing in keeping up with those assets? Oh, not really any at the moment. And yeah, that's a recipe for a disaster.
You have to really be up to date what's with the latest regulations, with upcoming events, upgrades. So yeah, it's hard if the more you have, the more you have to overlook. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe one final question. Now you are over 10 years active in the space. You build your business in the space. So you must be reading, working crypto, breathing crypto every day. And you also shared some insights. What has changed in your life? You could buy your apartment, your mother, you made some gain, and you built your own company. So what are the biggest changes in your life? And how do you live with this day-to-day crypto circus?
Yeah. The biggest thing is the freedom and the possibilities. Like 6-7 years ago, if you're like 20 something, you're struggling with your professional choices, and you're not really sure whether you're in the right area, whether this is really the job that you want to stay in. And you're wondering whether the pay is good or whether you should do something else or all those things. And your options are limited. And the freedom that I could actually do FemmeCapital and really start something that I really believe in and where I really trust that we are making a difference, and where I have already seen that we're making a difference for people, that's the biggest change. That's the most fulfilling change to me. Because it's nice to buy nice shoes or, I don't know, a purse or whatever some people might connect to. When I have money, I can buy this and that. But I think that's not the important thing about money or about possibilities and freedom or financial freedom or something like that. But really the possibilities for yourself and for your family and the safety.
Yeah.
So that is something that I would not want to miss for the world. And the crypto craze is really challenging because it's difficult to keep your cool sometimes when things are so turbulent. But I think that also teaches you after a while that you have to take a step back, that it's not really healthy if you wake up in the middle of the night and you check your portfolio or things like that. And these things don't really bring you or get you anywhere. So I think to really learn to live with all that, this dynamic or these structures, these super dynamic structures, that's an important part of crypto. Otherwise you burn out. I've seen a lot of people burning out over the years. Some who actually left crypto because they said they can't handle it anymore. So that's important, that you don't take it too serious. It's at the moment it's still a little bit like a game, but with real money. But it's important that you keep the lightness to actually have fun and be able to do well.
Yeah. Enjoy the ride.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. I think these were nice closing words. Thank you for taking the time, for being here, sharing your insights from such a long time being in the space, and especially for building this space for women, educational spaces. And I think it's really amazing the path you are going with FemmeCapital. And I'm really happy that you were here today and shared your insight. Thank you, Elisa.
For having me.
Thanks for tuning in. If you are keen on getting deeper insights about Web3 tech, our newsletter, Just the Metrics, is just what you need. It's packed with valuable information and it's completely free. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the video description. It's a great way to keep up with the latest in the Web3 space straight to your inbox. And before you go, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates and insights. Your support is what keeps these videos coming. So see you in the next video.